Hi, hello, and welcome in our video. In this video, we will be talking about workflows in Doors next. A requirement workflow is a state transition model in which you define the state that the artifacts of specified type can be in, and the actions that users can select to move these artifacts from one state to another. In the diagram we created, we have states in the rectangles and actions above the arrow. So new, in progress, under review, etc. Those are states, and actions are start working, submit for review, etc. So state new, from state new we can do just one action, start working. When I use start working, I will be transitioned from state new to state in progress. In state in progress, it is the same. I have just one action. I can just submit this artifact for review, and I will be transitioned automatically to state under review. From under review state, I have two possible actions. I can approve artifact, and I will be transitioned to approved state, or I can reject artifact, and I will be transitioned to rejected state. And to complete this workflow from approved or rejected state, I can complete this workflow, or from a rejected state, I can use action reopen and I will transition to in progress state. The workflow we explained is default workflow in Doors next. This default workflow, by the way, default is its name. This default workflow is pre-created in Doors next, and it is used by default. You can use this workflow, and a lot of customers use this workflow directly, or you can use this workflow and change it according to your specific needs. Alternatively, you can create your very own workflow. What may be interesting information for you is that you can have different workflows for different artifact types. So I can jump straight to the madness and I can tell you that for vision document, you can have one workflow. For stakeholder requirements, you can have different workflow. For system requirements, you can have yet another workflow. And for hardware requirements, you can have again another workflow. This is in no way tip, trick, or best practice, but it's possible because really for different kind of artifact types, for different levels of requirements, you may need a little different workflow. So it is possible if it's necessary. But honestly, most of the time our customer use one or two workflow maximum. Before I will jump and show you where can you find and work with your workflow, I would like to show you how can you assign your workflow to specific artifact type. Because by default, your workflow is not assigned to any artifact type. So even though it's default and it's pre-created, you cannot use it because your workflow is not associated to anything. So to associate workflow to artifact types, you need to go up here to settings, manage component properties. You have artifact types here, and we will be working with system requirements and stakeholder requirements and maybe informations. So let's assign workflows here. I will click on system requirement, and you see by default it's empty. So I will click and use default. Again, this is the name of the default workflow. And now just hit save, and we can do it for every artifact type, but I will do it just for system requirement, stakeholder requirement, and for information. Excellent. So those three are more than enough. Okay, so step number one, and the most important step, is to associate workflow with artifact types. And again, if you will be using just default workflow, even though it is predefined, you need to associate it. Very important step. Now let's see where you can find your workflow and where you can modify your workflow. To do this, go to Settings, but now let's choose Manage this project area. And here on left, you see Workflows. Here is the main screen for your workflow. So you can create your workflow here, or you can modify your workflows here. So right now we have just one workflow here. It is default workflow and it's actually its name. So the name of this workflow is default. We have three important parts here. Transitions. So this is the matrix of all states and all possible transitions between those states. Then you have states defined, and actions defined. At first, it may look complicated and unintuitive, but it's really simple. If you will start playing with this, I think in one day you will be Workflow Pro. And maybe one question, why you have state and action separated? But there is very good reason for this. Keeping actions and transitions separated provides flexibility for how you define permissions. Now it gives you therefore a possibility to provide permissions, what roles can do what actions on requirements in what states. So, for example, when you are in a new or in progress state, everyone can work with artifact. But after this artifact is submitted to review, so the artifact will be in under review state, then just reviewers and administrators can work with artifact. And after that, if this artifact is approved or rejected and then completed, then for example, just administrator can work in those states with artifact. So this is permissions number one. Then you can have different permissions. Number two, so for example, who can create action to transition from one state to another? Again, by default, everyone can work with artifact in every state and everyone can create any action. So right now there are no specific permissions for specific roles, specific actions, and specific states. But we will create permissions that everyone can start working on artifact and submit the artifact for review. So everyone can do those actions, but just for example, reviewer, in our case, administrator, will be able to approve. So this is action to approve, and then this is transition to approved state. Again, to reject, only administrator will be able to reject some artifact, and then it will be transitioned to rejected state. And again, just administrator will be able to reopen artifact, and just administrator will be able to complete artifact. To change this workflow, so you can have also example or scenario how can you change workflow. We can do some specific state, or not specific state, just specific action that everyone will be able to withdraw artifact from under review state. So for example, if I mistakenly submitted artifact for review, I will be able to withdraw this artifact from under review state. So we will modify this workflow a little. Right now, we will jump to the module and I will show you how can you work with workflows, how can you transition from one state to another, and how can you work with artifact in a specific state. Then we will create filters for specific workflows. Again, so you see that you can use filtering with specific workflow states. And it's great because you can create filter and see right away what artifacts are under review, or what artifacts are complete and you don't have to think about them anymore, or what artifacts are in progress, or even better, what artifacts are rejected and are high priority and requires your attention. So just a couple of filtering examples. And at the end, I will show you how can you change permissions. So we will work with those permissions a little, and hopefully after we will change the permissions for states and change permissions for actions, then it will be much clearer for you how those permissions are separated and what are the benefits of separating actions permissions and states permissions. All right, let's jump back to the modules and let's exercise. So I will be using training project and I will be using, again, any module, I will use system requirement specification. All right, so we have default view, and to use workflows, we already assigned workflows to artifact types, so that's great. And to view them right away, you can right click, more, and then search for workflow name. In our case, it's default. Okay, and you see, you probably will not remember state, but you will remember workflow name. So this is the workflow. Double click, okay, and we have state right here. Right now, no artifacts are using workflows, so we can start working with artifacts very easily. To change the state of the workflow of specific artifact, just navigate to this column, click on this pencil icon, and you see we start working with this artifact by create or start working. When you hit create, the state will be new. When you will click on start working, the state is in progress. So it's up to your choice, it's up to your process. All right, then after in progress, you have just one option, submit for review. Excellent. Now the state is under review. What options we have here? We have approve or reject. So I can approve and the state was changed to approved, or I can use reject and the state is rejected. From approved, I can just go to complete. From rejected, I can reopen or go to complete. So let's reopen and I transitioned again to in progress. So exactly as in a workflow diagram we were going through at the beginning. So this is how you can transition from one state to another. It's really easy, and again, everyone can work on artifacts in every state. So although this artifact is approved, I can work on this artifact. But you may say, okay, but you are administrator. Then let's jump to some another role. This is Peter. Peter is author, he is not administrator, but he can also work on any artifact in any state. So it doesn't matter if it's approved, in progress, or I will complete. So again, some state that probably you wouldn't like anyone to touch those artifacts because they are complete. But Peter, without administration privileges, he was able to work on those artifacts. And also you see, Peter was able to approve, disapprove, and complete those artifacts. So something you probably don't want Peter to do because this should be separate roles, again, reviewer or administrator. That's why I would like to jump to permissions. So I would like just administrator to be able to approve, reject, and complete artifacts, and that after the artifact is in under review state or complete state or approved state or rejected state, then just administrator can change them, but not our author role, so not Peter. We will do it in two separate steps. Right now, let's remove privileges from Peter. So Peter will be still able to change states, but Peter will not be able to change artifact content in specific states. So we will do it as a step one, separate step. So you see there are separate permissions for states and separate permission then from action. So step number one, let's remove permissions from Peter to work on artifacts that are under review, approved, rejected, or completed. To do that, I will jump to my administrator account, now navigate to settings, manage this project area, and here you have permissions. You have two options how you can show your permissions. It's either by role or by operation. At least for me, it's nicer view by operation. And I will look for state. Excellent. Here I will navigate to modify artifact. And here what I would like to use is modify an artifact of specific type in a workflow state. So you see right now everyone can change the artifact. You may have a little different permissions, but at least administrator and every author can change permissions. Not everyone, not commenter, not configuration lead. I have this as default. All right, let's remove permissions. So I will click here and you see you will need to change it for every artifact type separately. So let's start with information. I will click here. We have workflow here. And if the artifact is new state, everyone can work with it. If the artifact is in progress state, again, everyone should be able to work with it. But as soon as the artifact will be under review state, I will select no one will be able to work with it but administrator. If the artifact will be in a rejected state, again, the same. And if the artifact will be in approved and complete state, it will be again the same. So this is my new permissions. Again, for this is just for information artifact. So new state, everyone. In progress state, everyone. Under review, just administrator. Rejected, just administrator. Complete, just administrator. And approved, just administrator. Excellent. I will hit save. And then we need to do again for system requirements and for stakeholder requirements. So again, state, we are here, excellent. And without comments, I will just quickly modify those permissions. Excellent. So it's saved. I will now jump to Peter account. I will refresh page and see if I am able to change this artifact. So you see right away that you are not able to change this artifact because it is completed. But when it is under progress, you are able to change it. When I will transition to under review right now, Peter, because he is not administrator, he is just author, Peter is not able to change this artifact. But Peter, although he is just author, he is able to approve its own artifact or to complete his own artifact and to reopen his artifact and then change it again. So although we removed permissions from Peter to work on artifacts in specific states, we didn't remove permissions for Peter to transition between different states. So again, two-step process. We did step number one. We removed permissions to work in specific states. Now, as step number two, I would like to remove permissions from Peter to transition between specific states. So all I would like for Peter to do is to create new artifacts, set it into the progress and work on this artifact while in progress, and then submit those artifacts under review. After this, I don't want Peter to do anything, so he should not be able to work on artifacts. We already did that. And he should not be able to transition from under review to approved or to rejected or to complete and from complete to reopen. So let's remove those permissions. I jumped again to my administrator account. I will show by role, but now I will search for workflow. And you see we have trigger a workflow action here. So this is what we are looking for. Now I choose default workflow and those are actions. So what actions, what roles can do? Approve. You see administrator and author can approve. I don't want author to approve. Excellent. Complete. Administrator and author can complete. I don't want author to complete. Create. Administrator and author can create. Excellent. This is good. Reject. Again, just administrator. Reopen. Just administrator. Start working. Both of them. Excellent. And submit for review. Both of them. Because, yeah, author can submit for review, but after it is under review, author cannot do anything. So this is the permissions we would like to have. Again, just very quickly go through them so you can see. Excellent. I can save it. And now I think I have enough permissions for every day-to-day use. So author, when I will refresh it, now Peter cannot change completed artifact and cannot transition to any other state because no actions are available. While in progress, again, he's able to make a change and he is able to submit this artifact for review. But right now, no actions are available. So Excellent. This is exactly what we wanted to do. I can start working on a new artifact, so either create and then in progress, or jump to in progress right away. But after submitting for review, I cannot do anything. This is exactly what we wanted to accomplish. All right, I am starting to have a bad feeling that this video is getting very long, but what I would like to do is to create subsequent video where we will go through workflow modification process. So we will remove, for example, complete state, and we will add action to remove some artifact from under review, so to withdraw the artifact. So I hope this video was informative for you, and I look forward to see you in that subsequent video.